When I last left you, I had just wrapped up spending the winter at Mesa Spirit RV Resort. Before heading back east for the summer, I spent some time exploring northern Arizona and southern Utah, especially the higher elevations north of Phoenix. In this video, I'll show you what I got up to while touring around, as well as my trip east to Pennsylvania. And be sure to stick around to the end for the summary expense report for the trip. Now, roll that intro. This map shows my itinerary for the eastbound trip. I started by going west first. After 4 months of living close in, side by side in an RV park, it was time for some wide open spaces. So I headed west to Quartzsite. The LTVAs operate until the middle of April, and it wasn't yet too hot for desert RV living. So it was a perfect time to get back to basics, spread out, and enjoy some wide open desert space. I headed to the La Posa South LTVA, which is quickly becoming one of my favorites. I set up the solar panels and settled in for a few days, or at least until the desert temperatures climbed to an unbearable level. I went hiking. I had a set route of just over 3 miles that I walked every day. For the first time, I tried my hand at photographing star trails. I'm pretty pleased with how this turned out. Conditions here in the desert are perfect for such things. This is 140 images stacked together to achieve the star trail effect. Each image was shot at f2, ISO 200, and 30-second exposure on my Canon M50 using an intervalometer. The overall time to capture this sequence was about 1.5 hours. I ended up spending 2 weeks in Quartzsite. I departed on April the 14th and headed north to Boulder City. It's been many years since I visited the Hoover Dam. I wanted to see the new interstate bridge and tour the bridge walkway. It offers really cool views of the dam and Lake Mead. So I took the motorhome through the security checkpoint and found a suitable parking spot in an overflow lot near the entrance to the bridge walkway. I walked out onto the bridge and shot some photos and video. It really is stunning to see how much the water level in Lake Mead has dropped in recent years. After visiting the dam, I headed to Canyon Trails RV Park in Boulder City and stayed the night. The next day, I continued the trip north and east to J&J RV Park in Kanab, Utah. I was hopeful that I might be able to score a hiking permit in the daily BLM lottery to hike to the wave. But alas, it was not to be. I entered the lottery 4 times, seeking only a permit for one person, and spending $9 each time for the privilege of doing so. But I didn't win one. Nevertheless, while I was there, I made good use of my time. I visited Horseshoe Bend, Zion National Park, and Bryce Canyon National Park, which are all within a reasonable driving distance of Kanab. So here we go to Horseshoe Bend on the Colorado River.
Blue dude, blue moon, kinda mysterious, shaded with someone I'm not really into. Do you need to fix it? Talking bullshit. It's hard to see you when you're right.
I also stopped to check out the Glen Canyon Dam, which forms Lake Powell. Like Lake Mead, you can see how low the water level is today as compared to years in the past. Here's some more views of Lake Powell.
That blue, sort of witty and jaded, but let's not talk about you, your coyote song.
At Zion National Park, I did the hike to the Emerald Pools.
Are you hound dog tired singing all night long? Who's gonna save you? Who's gonna make you not blue? Not blue. Not
Next up, Bryce Canyon National Park. I have to say, between Bryce and Zion, I found Bryce to be much more dramatic and awe-inspiring than Zion. And it was much easier to visit. There were far too many people at Zion, even though I visited both places midweek.
blue moon, been one or two since I ran into you. Do you need a picture? Well, that gets old. It's hard to take one when your iPhone's full. Who's gonna save you? Who's gonna make you?
I went all the way to the far end of the park at Rainbow Point. This is at an elevation over 9,000 feet. There were still traces of snow on the ground. After 4 nights, I departed Kanab and headed north, through some nasty dust storms to a KOA at the southern end of Monument Valley. After 2 nights at the Monument Valley KOA, I hit the road once again, continuing further north into southern Utah. This time, my destination was Goosenecks State Park near Mexican Hat, Utah. After you depart the Monument Valley KOA heading north on US 163, you pass through an iconic viewpoint. Since the view is behind me, I'll keep going for now and stop on the return trip. So for now, sit back and enjoy some fast-forward footage through Monument Valley and the entrance to Goosenecks State Park. After paying the fee for 4 nights of camping at Goosenecks, I headed out to choose a spot along the rim of the San Juan River. spent the next 4 days doing some hiking, but mostly enjoying the awesome view this camp spot provides. As I mentioned previously, U.S. Route 163 is an iconic location for photographing the rock formations in Monument Valley, and was made even more famous when it was featured in the movie Forrest Gump, and showcased as the location where Forrest ended his run. This time I'm headed southbound on 163, and will get the full view out the windshield. So once again, sit back and enjoy this iconic drive through Monument Valley. Oh, and yes, I got a photo as well. I continued the drive south out of Utah and back into Arizona to Sedona. There had been some wildfires in the area along US 89 north of Flagstaff, referred to as the Tunnel Fire. The road had only recently reopened, and there were clear signs of the fire's aftermath. Because US 89 isn't passable south of Flagstaff for a 34-foot motorhome, I took I-17 south to the Sedona exit and then doubled back north on Arizona 179 through Oak Creek and into Sedona. I spent 10 days in Sedona. I did a couple of hikes. The first was the Huckabee Trail to the Midgley Bridge. Here's a good view of Oak Creek from the Huckabee Trail. And here we can see the Midgley Bridge in the distance. Another hike was a fairly famous one to Devil's Bridge. This is an ambitious hike with a lot of steep elevation gain to get to the bridge rock formation. The trail wasn't super busy that day. I only had to wait about 20 minutes for my turn to shoot some video and get a couple of photos on the bridge. I'm told that on busy days the wait can be an hour or more. After my 10 days in Sedona were up, I began my trip eastbound in earnest. After departing Sedona, I headed back south on Arizona 179, back through the 9 roundabouts. I then got on I-17 north to Flagstaff, then onto I-40 east. I once again encountered a pretty bad dust storm, this time on I-40. Thankfully, it was very isolated and didn't last very long. I drove a total of 371 miles to High Desert RV Park in Albuquerque, New Mexico. The next day, I drove another 300 miles to Amarillo Ranch RV Park in Amarillo, Texas. The third day, I drove 392 miles to the campground at Will Rogers Downs in Claremore, Oklahoma. After that, I drove 408 miles and stayed with some friends for a couple of nights near St. Louis. The final leg was 498 miles, where I stayed overnight in a Cracker Barrel parking lot in Cambridge, Ohio. I'm currently back at my summer home. I've got several adventures planned this summer, some in the motorhome and some not, so stay tuned to see what I get up to. Next up, the expense report for the eastbound trip. So here goes. As I mentioned, the trip eastbound was in 2 parts, the first being sightseeing in Arizona and Utah, followed by a concerted effort driving eastbound to Pennsylvania. Part 1 of the trip consisted of 1,183 miles, followed by the eastbound part at 2,075 miles, for a grand total of 3,258 miles. The total duration of the trip was 44 days, with 13 of those being driving days. The average miles driven on the driving days was 251 miles. For fuel, I spent $1,723 for 393 gallons of fuel. The average fuel cost was $4.38 per gallon. My average fuel economy was 8.3 miles per gallon. For camping, I spent $1,581 for 40 paid nights of camping. The 40 paid nights consisted of 21 nights with full hookups at an average cost of $71.48 per night. The other paid nights were 19 nights of dry camping at an average cost of $4.21 per night. And I had 3 free nights. This brings the overall average to $39.53 per night. For other expenses, I spent $1,578 for food and $864 on miscellaneous expenses, including car rental while I was in Kanab. The grand total cost was $5,755. As always, I hope you enjoyed coming along on my travel adventure. If you like what I'm doing here, please consider subscribing. I'll see you in the next one.